In a world where tomorrow's blockbusters reign,
three millennials look back on our generation's classics.
Our generation's classics,
And remember. Hey everyone, welcome to Millennials the Movie House, the podcast where three friends watch our generation's beloved movies of yesterday and review them from our modern adult perspective. I'm Betsy.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Serena.
And today we watched Galaxy Quest.
Never give up. Never surrender.
1999, written by David Howard and Robert Gordon, directed by Dean Parasot, starring, let me see if I do this right.
Huge cast.
It's huge. A huge cast.
Tons of people.
Starring Tim Allen as Jason Nesmith as Commander Peter Quincy Taggart, Sigourney Weaver as Gwen DeMarco as Tawny Madison, Alan Rickman as Alexander Dane as Dr. Lazarus, Tony Shalhoub as Fred Kwan as Tech Sergeant Chen, Sam Rockwell as Guy Fleeman, just Guy.
The guy.
Daryl Mitchell as Tommy Weber as Laredo, and lastly, Enrico Colantoni as Mathesar.
Are you reading the thing about Sam and Daryl's ages?
No, I have the wiki up on here just so that I had the characters within the movie, within the show's names. And it says right here, Corbin Blue played young Tommy Weber. I did not register that was Corbin Blue.
Oh my God. That's right.
That's funny.
That I did not recognize.
Well, it is 99, but for some reason it feels older when you're watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It feels like it's like 90.
Anyway, quick synopsis. Tracy, go.
This is a love letter to Star Trek.
Okay.
Yes. It is a parody / homage to Star Trek, where it is about the actors who were characters in a Star Trek like show that were in this show many years in the past and now are like stuck doing cons. Well, the leader, the commander, is approached by these people who turn out to be aliens who think he's actually a starship captain and asking for his help. And of course he thinks it's all like he's met all of these like crazy people at cons.
Right. He just went with it.
And he was like, sure. Okay. Yeah. I'm getting paid for this gig. I will do all this. And then it turns out to be real. And he recruits the rest of his cast to help him out, defend these aliens from other bad aliens. And of course they kind of step up to the plate because they realize that these aliens have recreated the show to
the T.
Yeah, exactly like the show. So their motions, their movements, how things are supposed to work, they've recreated. So even though they are just actors, they actually know how to do this job because everything is based on all of their movements and whatever.
Right. Yeah. And what do they call them?
Documentaries or
historical documents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yep, and shenanigans ensue, and it's a space opera, and it's fantastic.
It really truly is.
Oh, so good. When this came up, I was like, yes, it's going to be a fun one. I want to go back to what you said about it's an homage to Star Trek. This ranks amongst the best Star Trek movies. Like when you see a list of the best Star Trek movies, Galaxy Quest is on those lists. Yeah. And even like J.J. Abrams, for example, has said, like, everyone agrees the best Star Trek movie is Galaxy Quest.
Well, and he took heavy influences, and I didn't realize this until watching it this time around, knowing that that's what he pulled for his 2009 Star Trek.
Right.
You can see direct parallels.
Yeah.
Like, I think, so he even said he told Eric Bana to take inspiration from the bad guy to do his own bad guy.
I can totally see that parallel.
There is a line he says, the bad guy in this goes, find them. And in Eric Bana shouts that in Star Trek.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You can see direct, and it's great.
It's so good.
It's so amazing how
the fandom just like accepted it. J.J. Abrams is part of the fandom. The fandom just wholly accepted this movie.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful.
I didn't know going in that that's what it was. And I actually, as I was watching, I'm like, why does this remind me of something so much? My grandfather used to watch the Star Trek like shows on at whatever
Mhm.
time. And there's a couple different types of Star Treks, right? There's like
Yes.
different
Oh,
versions.
I know. Well, and that's actually, I wanted to get your side of it, Serena, because Tracy and I know Star Trek. Like we grew up with Star Trek and we know Galaxy Quest. I think I watched it when it came out. I don't know. I think Tracy, I'm sure you did too, or pretty close.
yeah. Again, it's one of those movies I don't actually remember going
Seeing it for the first time.
but I just, it's just always been there.
But
Yeah.
Serena, I kind of knew that you were going to come into this cold, and I didn't give you any background on it. So, what was your impression? Is this the first time you've seen it?
First time I've seen it. And I love Tim Allen, by the way. All of every
Very Buzz Lightyear.
He's funny. Yeah.
He's
For this,
the
like,
Santa Claus. He's the Santa Claus.
Right.
He
played
kind of
this
plays
role
the
way
same
he
character, but this is what this character was, kind of
Right.
arrogant, kind of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously I was familiar with some of the cast, but Star Trek was only ever on in the background for me growing up. Like, I was young and my grandfather watched aren't they in the 70s too? They have them? Don't they go as far back as
60s.
okay. So yeah, they've been around for a while. So I mean, he was watching the old ones, right?
Yeah.
Like the original. And I was at my mom's on Friday and my sister was like, "Oh yeah, Galaxy Quest." My sister, who I don't even know if she watches movies, and she's like, "Yeah, I know Galaxy Quest. I saw it a long time ago." And she's like, "It's kind of like a Star Trek parody." And I'm like, "How the hell does she know that?"
Yeah. It was a parody, but I want to say it was an homage. Like
It was a love letter.
It's
exactly what you
It
said.
really was. It was funny, but it took it in such like a loving way.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think the creators, like, I think the fans could feel that from the creators. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a joke. It was
It was like not
something
like
to
to make fun of. It was more just like
nostalgia.
yeah. I don't know. I watched it. I went in blind.
That's and that's a good perspective to have, because again,
It's
Tracy and
fresh.
I have
Yeah.
a similar perspective to each other, and I really wanted your view of it.
No, I liked it. At first I was like, "Oh, this is going to be cheesy. What is this?" And I'm like, "But Tim Allen's in it. Maybe it's not going to be cheesy." And I was like watching and I'm like, "Eh." And then when they took him up and zapped him up in the limo, I knew it was on. It was on. They zapped him up in the limo and I was like, "Oh, this is legit. Okay, now I'm paying real close attention because I want to know what's happening."
So to continue on the whole parody homage type thing, is they compared it to, this is the sci-fi's answer to Scream. As Scream is to horror, this is to sci-fi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Scream
Yep.
was making fun of all of the horror cliches, but in and of its own right was its own movie.
Was a horror.
It was a horror. It
Yeah.
did its own thing, but it was both,
It was meta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what this
I
was.
totally agree with that. Yeah. The other little note I have, because I did make a note about how it's an honorary Star Trek movie. The other note I have is that I didn't know this until I looked it up. It won the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation.
Oh, I
didn't
see
know
that.
I
didn't
read
know
it.
that. That's fantastic. I love that.
For best
Honestly,
dramatic presentation. What can you explain that a little bit?
I think that is their category for movies, because Hugo Awards is, I always thought it was literary.
Yeah.
Solely literary.
Okay,
And I think
so
it is
this
for
is
the
their-
most part, but this is their like audio visual category.
Got
And
it.
Galaxy
Okay.
Quest won it. So I was impressed. And it won over The Matrix, Sixth Sense, Being John Malkovich, and The Iron Giant. Those were the
Those
other
are big
nominees.
movies.
Those are big
Wow,
movies.
that's
Speaking
impressive.
of, I actually I went out of my way to go look up the other movies that came out this year. I feel like 1999, when you think of millennials and you think of millennial movies, 1999 was like the year.
Yeah.
It was.
All right. So we all appreciated it and enjoyed it.
I liked it at first.
gathering.
Yeah, at first I was unsure what I was getting myself into. And then as time went on, I was like, okay, I can get with this. I
You
actually
just have
stayed
to
awake.
trust us, Serena.
I know. And you know what? I was wicked tired. I was laying on the couch, this very couch right here. And I was afraid that I was going to fall asleep. And I didn't.
So it held your attention, is what you're saying.
It held my attention.
good.
It
That's
did.
good.
It passed the Serena pass out test.
Good. Wow, the Serena pass out test.
Yeah. I have a couple other trivia things that I thought were interesting.
Go for it.
This was the cinematic debut for Rainn Wilson and Justin Long.
Oh, Rainn Wilson. That's right.
I think he was in maybe a couple of TV things, but this was his first movie, his first whatever, and he wasn't in much of it.
Yeah.
But
Justin Long, for it being his first movie, that was actually a pretty big role, and that was the role that was for the fans. You know, that was every wish fulfillment fantasy you could think of.
I have written here that this movie is an ultimate nerd fantasy.
Yeah.
Like who doesn't want to find out that their favorite show is real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and you have to help them.
Right.
Like,
you have to be. Yeah.
The number one fan was like the guy that saved the day. And he's like, well, finally my knowledge comes into to necessity. The guy that plays Snape on Harry Potter,
Alan Rickman.
I really like him as an actor. I really do. Anything I've ever seen him in, which I can't rattle off on the top of my head right now.
He almost didn't do this movie because he thought it was too whatever. He didn't want to do sci-fi. He didn't want to do.
But then he read the script and thought it was hilarious. And so he was like, all right, fine, I'm in.
Yeah.
Alan Rickman. Yeah, I like him.
And the genius of that is he's a very sincere actor, and they did not choose a comedian for that role. And because that's not a comedic role, he played it dead straight, and it worked. It worked really well.
Yeah, I just like him. He has like the best like facial expressions.
He will pop up again in this podcast.
I'm
sure. Oh yeah.
My last little thing that that I didn't know but I found out was that Enrico Colantoni,
that's
his
a name.
audition, I think he was auditioning for somebody else or something, and he came up with this like way of speaking to be an alien, and the directors or whoever the casting, they loved it so much that not only did they like shape the rest of the aliens' behaviors and speech patterns on what he was doing, is they brought him into the other people's, I don't know if it was their auditions or whatever they were doing to show like, okay, try to be him.
Nice.
So I thought that was really cool.
I did see that he just came up with that way of speaking.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is a good segue. That is my favorite part. That is his performance, I think, is genius. Yep. And a little overshadowed by our main characters, but if you go into the movie to pay attention to him, he's genius.
Awesome.
It's genius.
He is great.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and speaking of going into the movie to pay attention to him, I have seen this movie so often that every time I watch it, I do that now. I'm like, all right, I know the story really well. I know the characters really well. Let me focus on something that I maybe didn't focus on before. And so Math is Art was who I focused on this time around. Were there any other little trivia tidbits?
Missy Pyle. She was a very minor character until they realized that, oh yeah, Sigourney Weaver is the only woman in this.
Yep.
Let's beef up her role a little bit.
Yep. And thank God they had Missy Pyle, because I think she's genius. Everything she's in, I'm like, yes, I love her.
Which one's she again?
She's the girl alien.
She played Tony Shalhoub's love interest.
Well, he was also great in this. He was just a little bit off.
She had great. Uma Thurman hair.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
I will say with Tony Shalhoub, because I was reading about this movie more than I ever have. I didn't register that he was supposed to be playing a stoner. I didn't catch that.
Oh.
I just thought he was a weird character. But everywhere I was reading, it was like, oh yeah, he plays the stoner character. I'm like, oh, I did not pick that up.
Maybe I'm just not a stoner, so I didn't pick that up. I took it more as socially awkward than stoner.
Yeah. Or maybe hippie. Like just like really low key loose. Well, and now as I'm describing it, yes, that's what stoner is.
It is, yeah. But I took it more as a character quirk than
same. Anyway, so what was everyone else's favorite parts?
My goodness.
I love just Tim Allen. It's classic nostalgia from my childhood, because I mean,
did you grow up watching Home Improvement?
I watched Home Improvement, but I actually think I saw the Santa Claus more than I have than the episodes that I've seen of Home Improvement.
That's fair.
And I don't know. There's something about Tim Allen that he's just like not very annoying. You know, some characters have
He
like
was funny
some,
in the 90s.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
he's funny nostalgia because like
yeah, that's what it is. Nostalgia.
in Home Improvement, he was like that dad character that we grew up with.
Yeah.
And then with Santa Claus, we grew up him as then. Some of his humor, like in like Tool Time Home Improvement doesn't age well.
Mhm.
So I more was watching Boy Meets World and like skipped the Home Improvement.
Yeah.
You didn't have a
But-
Jonathan Taylor Thomas phase? My God.
I went
What
through
kind of
some-
millennial teenager are you?
I know. I don't know. I think it was like the time that it was on. It was probably our bedtime. We were like sent to bed at 7 p.m.
And there was no such thing as TiVo. back
Having
then.
said that, I can't imagine anybody else in this role.
Right.
He did an
Agreed.
amazing job.
Agreed. I just think that Tim Allen leaned into the Shatner so much.
Yeah.
And he just did a really
Yeah.
good job with it.
Yes.
I think for me, the biggest thing is that it was the nostalgia because
Yeah.
I grew up watching the Santa Claus and I don't know. I'm not saying
And
he's
when
the
did
same
Toy
character in
Story
every
come
movie.
out? I think when did Toy
That's
Story come
true.
out? I want to say 97. I want to say it came out before this.
I think so. I think it did.
And he was very Buzz Lightyear, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Which
Yeah,
was
he was
I
he was
think-
riding high at this point.
Yeah.
Tracy, what was your favorite part?
I don't know if these are my favorite parts because I feel like I just love the whole movie.
Yeah. It's hard to pick.
But I have two that are coming to me. And one is that the Omega 13,
Yes.
when it was exploding, it didn't explode. Oh no, I'm sorry. Not the Omega 13, the core of the ship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't explode when it was supposed to. It was like overheating or something. It was supposed to explode.
Oh, yes.
Right?
yes.
Is that or was
Yeah,
it wasn't
and then they were supposed to explode, and then it got down to 1, and they said it never.
Oh,
was
yeah.
because in
Programmed
the
to make it
show,
to 0.
This goes down to 1.
because it just goes down to 1 and it never explodes because in the show it never exploded. So I was like, that's clever.
Yep.
I really like that. And I
Yeah.
guess all right, I have 3 favorite parts because then the other favorite part is the 13 seconds and it's
Yes.
like enough to erase a mistake or something. That was
Mhm.
really clever.
Mhm.
But then I think I like the sentimental moment where you see Alexander fighting. He hates his catchphrases. He hates it so much. He hates whatever. And then when he meets the alien that like loves him the best, he's like,
Yeah.
just don't say it. I don't like. And that's the one person that dies in this film.
Yeah.
And it's
Aw.
his delivery of that line, it makes me tear up every time.
right.
It's
Yeah,
It
it
is
was
it
so
is
sincere.
genuine.
Oh
It
my
is
God.
sincere. You are just like, yes.
Yeah.
This is like, if
Yeah.
this guy's going to die,
He's going to hear
he-
this line.
He's
Yeah.
going to hear this line and he means it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Then he immediately avenges him.
right. So
Yeah.
it was very moving. It was a human moment in this funny sci-fi. And I like those moments. I like that no matter how crazy things can be, we're still human. We still have those emotional moments.
Agreed. I am surprised. I know you have a love for a particular actor in this movie, and I'm surprised you have not mentioned him yet.
Because my love for him is new.
Oh, okay. Is it
Um,
new movies or
it
is
is
it
a-
just
It's interesting. So Sam Rockwell,
Sam
I mean,
Rockwell?
I love
Which
the
one's
role he
that?
has.
He plays Guy. He's the red
like-
shirt.
yeah.
He's the red shirt. And I love that. And then like when he at the end, when they rebooted the show,
They
like
gave
is
him his whole
introduced, They
name.
give him a full name.
Yeah.
Oh, I read somewhere that they asked him to, or he based his character off of Bill Paxton's character in Aliens.
Yes.
And
Yep.
once I heard that, it's an exact, like, that is that same character.
Is
The
Bill
exact same
Paxton
character.
is Bill Paxton the one in Twister?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh dang! See, I'm getting good. I'm
You're
getting
getting
my
good. Good job.
connections are like, hey, different. The little
Well
light bulbs
done.
are going off.
He based it on that, but the character itself is based on a real guy named, I think his name
Yes.
is Guy. And he played several red
Yeah.
shirts and stunt doubles in Star Trek. And he immediately, they told him about it, but he forgot but when he saw it, he was like, that's me.
That's me. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
He was great comic relief just the whole way through. He
was
God.
as much as Justin Long was the fans, he was also there for that. You know what I mean? Like,
he was the extra. He was that actor who wanted to be part of it. And
yeah, like I think one of his lines was, "Did you guys even watch the show?" Like
he was? He was the Jamie Kennedy. He was what Jamie Kennedy was to Scream.
Oh, okay,
he
yeah.
was to Galaxy Quest. He was kind of walking everybody through like the tropes of the sci-fi stories. Yep. Okay, so how is this movie a millennial movie? Is it a millennial movie? Did it impact our generation, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, my Star Trek that I grew up with was Voyager, because that was just the time period in which I grew up.
What year was that? That Voyager is the one that was always on.
Voyager was 95
Started
to 01.
Yep.
And this was 99. So this was
maybe
in the middle of that. So I
did have Next Generation was on in the household on a regular basis as well. But Voyager was like, we watched that as it was airing, and it was that was our baby.
Our baby.
So even though I feel like a lot of the tropes were from the original, it was timely for our generation. Men in Black happened in 97, which was kind of like this. I don't know. I could argue either side. I could argue that it was an everyone movie, because I feel like anyone who likes Star Trek, and that has very much stretched the generations, would appreciate this movie. But I feel the way that they filmed it and the special effects that they had was very of the time, which was very our generation. And then it was obviously very heavily influenced the 2009 J.J. Abrams Star Trek. So, which was, I would argue, that was our movie.
Also our generation.
Also our generation.
Yeah, definitely.
So I would say yes and no. Yes, but I could understand how other older generations, I don't know if newer generations would appreciate it at all.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's actually exactly what I was going to say. And this is coming from someone who I had to Google which Star Trek was always on. By the way, it was Next Generation. That was the one that I grew up with the background on. And that's fair. 87 to 94, which perfect amount of time, because, that was, anywho.
I will have you know that there is also a very strong Deep Space Nine fandom, which I never really experienced, but it's weird. I don't know why, but that fandom seems to be the strongest and longest living. Like, I feel like I hear about that fandom still. Anyway, sorry.
I was gonna say, I never hear anything about Voyager.
Never. No. So no, really no. But
and even this might be in a minority. I know it's in the minority. I liked Enterprise.
Oh, yeah, Enterprise. Yeah. That was the other one.
Yep. I think they stumbled a little bit there.
They did.
But yeah. Well, and then
I think as soon as they didn't use the Star Trek like theme song at the beginning, they used an actual song, which I actually really like. I like that song. I liked it.
Good song, yeah.
But immediately all the fans were like, no.
Yeah.
So they shut it down.
So they went into it with a bad.
But I think that was important to do, because we had to drive home the fact that it was Enterprise predated all the other shows, right, from like a chronological perspective. So it was like closer to our time, closer to our period. Anyway,
well, that's what I was going to say.
We're not talking about Enterprise.
No.
Serena, finish what you were saying.
No, I was just going to say, I stepped on what Tracy was saying, because I was like that, like in excitement and agreement with her, because that's exactly what I was going to say is, did this really affect our generation? I think it was our parents would have really appreciated this love letter movie, because they grew up more like, well, I don't know, not because 66 was when it first came out. Right. Star Trek, the original.
Well, that's
Star
what
Trek.
Tracy was saying, is like that Star Trek really spans all the generations.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think that this is an instance where I don't know if I would call it a millennial movie, but I would rather group the fans of it in a different way, which is the nerds, the geeks, the Star Trek fans.
It just happened
Not
to
even
fall.
just the Star Trek fans, but just like geek
No, like
fans
cons
in general. Yeah.
And like cosplays and any type of fandom.
Yeah.
It happened to fall on 1999, but I don't know. It's the nostalgia thing.
I would, however, argue that it was made in the perfect time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%
Like it was
agreed with you on that.
Because
if
it was smack
made
dab
any
in the
earlier
middle.
or later, I feel like it wouldn't have. I mean, I don't know how it did commercially or critically, but I think it's Galaxy Quest definitely has a cult following.
Absolutely.
And I think it was just made at the right time with the right actors, with the right, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like if
Yep.
they did too much, like if they did too much special effects or made it too fancy, it would have been almost too realistic or whatever.
I think if they made it in like 89 or 2009, it would have missed the boat. It would have been too early or too late. I think you're right. I think 99 was the perfect time. And personally, I think Tim Allen was the perfect person for this role. And this was him in his kind of his prime, right?
And I love that. I love that Sigourney Weaver is in it too. She was
Yes.
almost too famous for the role, but I think it was just enough to have that like connection to Alien and, and everything.
That's what I didn't realize. I was like, why do I know the name Sigourney Weaver so well? And then I was like Googling, I'm like, oh my God, she's in like every single Alien movie. And there's a lot.
She is Alien. She did a good job. They all did a good job.
They all did.
Everybody
really
had their own little
jobs.
Jobs and they all did them.
They all did them. Boom, we fixed it, guys. So here's the thing.
Okay.
It's something that I noticed for the first time this time around.
Uh-oh.
And I like Googled it because I'm like, maybe I'm just like making this up. Maybe I'm not seeing what I'm actually seeing. But there's a little bit of yellow face happening in this movie. And it's so if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah.
So Tony Shalhoub plays somebody named Fred Kwan, who plays somebody named Chen. Was that right?
I forget. Yeah.
And I think it was purposeful. I think it was part of the like playing off of, I don't know what they were playing off of, but I think it was purposeful. And then at one point, his character does say, Fred Kwan isn't even my real name. Because I think that was the whole point, is that he was pretending to be Asian.
I did notice the last name. And then I was like trying to like rationalize it in my head. Like, what is his ethnicity type of, you know what I mean? Where I was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, all right, whatever.
And again, it was very
you're right.
subtle. Like those are the only hints that was happening. But why have that in there at all? So that was my only thing. That was my only criticism about this movie.
If they're gonna make fun of it, be open, overt, and then like overt, so people get that it's a joke.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not a joke, and you're not landing it very well.
Right. All right. Does anybody else have any Boom We Fixed It's?
The 12 scariest
because
sci-fi
otherwise it's
movies.
the perfect movie.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
The perfect movie.
I think the way it was and what it was supposed to be was perfect. Yep. I didn't know what it was going into it, but now I know. And I think it was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was for what it was supposed to be.
It wasn't trying to be anything more than it was. It was just a campy homage.
Yeah.
Sci-fi fun romp with big names.
Yeah.
All right, notes roundup.
I think I mentioned everything.
I pretty much said everything.
My other note that I have is that the modern day example of Galaxy Quest, because this is not modern day, because this is over 20 years old. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Is the Orville.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good point. Because I do love that show. Mm-hmm. And it's because it, like Galaxy Quest, it has the perfect amount of parody and heart. It still has that. I'm not doing this to make fun of it. I'm doing it because I love it.
Yep. And I gotta say, there are a couple episodes, because I haven't watched the Orville in a while. It's been
off for a long time because of COVID
of COVID and everything. But there are one or two episodes that really, really stick with me, that, like, you know how some Star Trek episodes, they make
Yeah.
you question
The
question
world, your
things.
life. Yeah.
And
like
or
they go
the
deep. They go deep.
manages to do that as well while
Yeah.
being comedic. It really rides that line really well. So did anybody have any other notes on it?
I spewed all my information out all at once excitedly.
That's
So
understandable.
I
got
think I
nothing.
said it already, but it's a movie, it's a nerd fantasy. It's hope that, like, you know, that the X-Files, they're really real.
Yeah.
That Star Trek, it's real. It, you know,
X-Files.
Twilight, it's real. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well, and it's also, I think it's really clever, the idea that aliens would watch our fiction and think that it was real. Like,
yep.
Cultural differences between us and aliens, you know.
Gilligan's Island, those poor people.
Those poor people. That was really funny. I don't know if I never picked that up before, but I burst out laughing at that. Sorry. Okay. Now I'm just like replaying the movie in my mind.
It was that good.
It was that good. I want to give one more shout out to, we didn't mention a character there. I mean, actor. There's one actor we never mentioned, Daryl Mitchell. And I almost feel like that's unfair because I don't know. I feel like he was relegated to like maybe the least interesting role. But at the same time, I feel like that actor had a moment in the late 90s and just kind of came and went a little bit. But like, I know him from Sergeant Bilko and 10 Things I Hate About You. He was just, you know, he was that guy in those movies. But I just want to give a little shout out to him because
he was in Fear the Walking Dead and
he has
New Orleans.
a steady role. He's steady career. He's he's been around, but yeah, I feel like he was in a flurry of movies.
Yeah.
You know, but
the fun fact I had about him was in Galaxy Quest, the original show, he was portrayed as a child.
Right.
And Guy was in an episode as an adult male, but actually Daryl is 3 years older than.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. Well, I think Sam Rockwell is supposed to be playing older.
Yeah.
But
I think he's supposed to be playing older and Daryl's supposed to be playing younger.
Agree. Yeah. Yep. And the mustache on Sam Rockwell helps that along.
Yeah.
Because that was a heck of a mustache. All right. Well, yeah. All right. Good game, everybody. GG.
GG.
Do we even need to do a martini shot? Martini shot. Would you recommend this movie?
Yes. And I didn't we used to ask, would we let our children watch this or make our children watch it?
Yes.
I would recommend it. And actually I would make my children watch this.
Agreed. I think that this is a great movie to show the next generation because Star Trek is having a moment right now. It has two shows happening right now. Say what you will about them,
hidden
but
behind the paywall.
I know, but a lot of things are hidden by Coda is hidden behind the paywall. I can't watch Coda because that's just the way of the world right now. But yeah, Star Trek is having a bit of a comeback, and I think it's bringing in a new generation of kids to the Star Trek franchise. Yeah. I think that this is a great way of being like, hey, like, Star Trek hasn't always been mainstream. You kind of were, you were a geek if you were watching that type of stuff. So yeah, anyway. So yes, definitely a yes. 100% yes. Serena?
Yes, I would say yes. Even if you didn't watch Star Trek growing up, I think that this is still kind of a cool movie. And yeah, I do think kid friendly. I would co-sign that as well, Tracy.
So what else has everybody been watching? Any recommendations, non-Galaxy Quest recommendations?
Yellowstone.
Really? How do you like? Is it good so far?
Yeah, I don't know if I recommended this last week, but
I feel like you said you were going to watch it, and
yeah, we've been binging it, and so I've been so excited because it's something that my mom's been trying to get me to watch for like the last 2 years. And I mean, the show is good. There are some violent scenes, but it's honestly like great cast, great just acting, directing, whoever wrote the lines for this show, like I'm telling you guys, some people were born a willow, some people were born an oak. It's
Good
just
line.
I just feel like I could quote Yellowstone. And for the sideline here, the music is phenomenal.
Always with the music with you.
Yeah, it's so good, you guys.
Yeah.
So I have been watching
The
Chicago PD, which
Chicago PD. Okay. I watched I watched maybe a couple seasons of Chicago Med, but not Chicago PD.
So that's the thing is I randomly watched an episode like of season 9, a 2-part episode of Chicago, whatever. And I was like, you know what? I like the actors. They're doing a good job. I think this is interesting. Let me check it out. And I knew from the beginning it was going to be a mistake. I knew it because I hate, and this is coming from a comic book lover that it happens all the time and I cannot stand it, are things that overlap.
Yes.
You can't
just
you can't follow
it.
You can't follow it.
Yeah.
You can't just pick one thing and enjoy it. So I was like, all right, well, I won't. I'm like, usually they do a pretty good job of like recapping. I won't have to watch the others. It's fine.
Nope.
There was a couple of overlaps with like Chicago Fire and Chicago Med that you didn't really need to know, other than like they're all sleeping with each other. So to know what any of and that's what I watched TV for the interpersonal relationships. So I can't follow that. But then they finally had a character death. A main character of Chicago PD died in another. Not even that. It's not even ready. So I'm like, okay, fine. Chicago Fire and Chicago Med all kind of started around within a couple years of each other. If I really wanted to binge them all, I could do it. No. Do you know what it also crosses over with? SVU.
Oh,
you know how many seasons of SVU there are if you wanted to really catch up or whatever? So I had to watch not only Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, and SVU to know what happened to this poor girl that died, for me, off screen.
That's a load of crap.
And then it's like, okay, I'm like on YouTube TV. They're like, I think on USA or something, they're like replaying the old episodes, which is why I'm like,
that's what they're doing with the Yellowstone. They're marathoning it.
So I'm like, okay, I can. They just started brand new, like started from the beginning, so I have all the episodes.
Yeah,
they're not doing that with SVU. I had to search I had to borrow somebody's Hulu that had it copied so I could watch this one episode of season 63 of SVU to figure out what the hell happened to this poor girl.
Oh my God. What dedication. All right. So you're saying you fell into the loop and you don't recommend it for anybody.
Don't watch a show that has multiple things. Well, don't do it.
The thing I will say about this is those are shows for people who only watch those kinds of shows.
Yeah.
And I think it actually is a genius marketing technique to do that. It's like but it's not the MCU. Our kind of people.
Yeah, we don't have time for
exhausting the MCU is.
Oh my God. I'm so happy to be done with it. I'm so happy to be done with it.
But it's not done. They're Marvel. Like, keep going.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm done.
The Marvel universe.
That's it. All the characters that I cared about are done somehow. I am doing a rewatch on Psych right now.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Show.
Isn't that just
good
a fun?
Show.
I needed something just light and breezy and, good background.
He's the only reason that I watch A Million Little Things, the TV show. Yeah. I would argue that he's the main character and he does fantastic job.
It's funny you say that because I actually got that sense too. Whenever I see like trailers for it or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah,
it's supposed to be an ensemble cast. Yeah. And I would argue he's the main character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did. You know what? I did watch Psych for a while. I did watch this for a while.
It comes and goes, or like it ebbs and flows a little bit. Like there are moments where I'm like, all right, so I'm not really paying attention because it's not really engaging, but then it comes right back and it goes through waves. And it was overall it's a solid, enjoyable show. And they made 3 movies, so I haven't seen those and I'm excited to see them.
I didn't know. Yeah.
All right, those are our recommendations.
Woo.
Oh, now boy. For my favorite part of the podcast.
Spinning. I'm always a little afraid.
All right.
I know,
are
me
we-
too.
Are we ready for this?
No.
Yeah, no.
It's
Maybe.
again, it's so anticlimactic. Beetlejuice.
Oh
Woo!
yes,
That's a
I
good
love
one.
Beetlejuice.
Okay.
That's a good
okay.
one. All right. Thanks for joining us. If you like what you hear, you can find more great episodes over on our website, www.millennialsofthemoviehouse.com, or wherever you find your podcasts. Curious about updates of extras from our episodes or want to add your 2 cents about a reviewed movie? We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle for both is @themoviemillies. Check us out and make sure to follow us. So until next time.
We're millennials.
And we'll see you at the movie house.